Hi guys, it's Krista. Today I'm here to do a book review on the book titled Unleashed by Nancy Holder and Debbie. I don't know how to say her last name, so I'm not even going to attempt it because I don't like when people try to say my last name because they never get it right. Unleashed is about a 16-year-old girl named Caitlin whose mom has just recently died in an earthquake, so she is forced to move to Arkansas to live with her grandfather. And on her very first day there, she meets this boy named Trick, who is, for some reason, best friends with her grandfather, even though he's 16 years old. And he is supposed to be her ride to and from school every day. And so on the first day of school in Arkansas, her history teacher assigns her a class project. And she was teamed up with this girl named Cordelia. And for some reason, Cordelia doesn't really like Trick. It's not explained too well until later on in the book why, but even then it was like something about the way he treated one of her best friends, but I thought that was kind of an unnecessary amount of hostility towards him. Her and Cordelia become friends, and they do a lot of research for their project, and it's about local history, so they're going back and forth trying to pick out subjects of what to do it on. And so Caitlin comes up with this idea for a silver mine, of course, because it's a werewolf book. And her friend Cordelia is not too interested in the idea. And then she says we could come up with something else. And then one day she decides she's into it, and the other day she's certainly not into it anymore. So she's kind of like the worst partner to have. But they finally decide to do the mine. And honestly, I think the project was kind of just a reason for her to read the local histories of the town so that she could find out more information about the Hellhound, which is like the actual plot of the story, while the history presentation is just what kind of started her search for knowledge, And so from the get-go, you kind of realize that everybody has this big secret, and it's kind of frustrating because you're reading from Catelyn's point of view, so you'll only know as much as she does, and it's not a lot. So it's so frustrating because Cordelia and her family are so weird, they're so secretive, and you know it's a werewolf story, so you know there's going to be something about werewolves, but just the way that the authors write it, it makes you really on the edge of your seat trying to figure out what is really going on in this town. And a major part of it is the Hellhound legend that they have going on. How everybody kind of believes it, but they won't say they do. And apparently it's responsible for killing 2 girls out in the forest. But they really tried to act like it was a wild animal and not the Hellhound. Until one day, Caitlin is actually attacked by it, and she barely escapes with her life. But after she's bitten, she realizes that she's healing really fast, and suddenly she feels her eyesight changing and starting to get clearer, and she's starting to hear better. And all night she's having these weird nightmares, and she's hearing this drumming and these howls. And so it's actually really interesting. As cliche as it sounds, it really is interesting. Catelyn goes to Cordelia's house one day and she meets her family, which is weird from the moment she gets there. And her 2 sisters are not nice at all. They kind of circle around Catelyn and like call her stranger, and it's just very weird. And then she meets her cousin named Justin. And Justin is kind of the second love interest who's introduced, because there's always a love triangle in these YA books, To be honest, I didn't like the romance that was going on between Catelyn and Justin, because I thought it was very forced and insta-love, and a lot of that love you see in the werewolf books, the werewolf fan fictions on Wattpad, when it's all like her mate, and she saw him and she knew and she ran to him and sniffed her neck or some weird stuff like that. That's basically how their first encounter was. And so I didn't like it from the start, especially when the romance that she had with Trick had actually grown over time and over their chats while they were driving to school. And although Trick was he had some secrets of his own, which was very frustrating. As I said, the whole book was kind of frustrating all the way through because there's a lot of unanswered questions and so much going on. So you're just sitting there trying to figure it out just like she is, you know? Because all she knows is California, living with her mom, gymnastics, thinking about joining the Cirque du Soleil, and her best friend Kimmy, which actually wasn't that good of a friend because a week after she left, she stopped texting her, she started hanging out with other friends, and basically was not a good friend to Catelyn. So I felt bad, but honestly, that happens sometimes, so you can't be too mad about it. And so, spoilers before I go into this, it's the ending, and it is full of spoilers, okay? So if you do not want to be spoiled, please click out of the video. But just a disclaimer, this book seems more geared towards the younger readers who are just getting into YA, and it feels very kind of childish and immature, even though it is a good story. So just know that it seems like it's more written for 13 to perhaps 16 years old. So if you're older than that, you might like it, you might not. I'm 18 and I enjoyed it as much as I actually bought the second book. Out of 5 stars, I would give this book 3.5. So I would recommend it, but mostly to younger readers, okay? So this is the end of you guys if you don't want to be spoiled, and everything after this is going to be filled with spoilers, okay? This book, the thing that frustrated me the most was kind of just the way that the love triangle was set up. So she has this really great relationship with Trick on one hand, and then she has this relationship with Justin, who is actually revealed to have a girlfriend that he's been steady on. Like, I think it was like 5 years or 7 years he had been dating her for, and he just kissed Catelyn out of nowhere, and he was just acting very weird, and he took her for a drive on his motorcycle in the forest, and they kissed, and it was crazy. I like the way that the romance was set up between her and Trick and her and Justin, because I felt like neither of them were really too good. Like, if I had to root for one, I would root for Trick, but at times he was too mysterious and too held back and was not willing to share his secrets with Catelyn. And I know, like, okay, like he probably is a werewolf or something to follow this along with the story, and you know it's about werewolves, he's probably a werewolf, but just the way he treats Catelyn, like when he leaves her at the party by herself, that was just the one thing that got me. But everything else around Trick was pretty fine in my opinion. He was actually an interesting guy, and who was cool for her to hang out with. I had no problems with him, and I actually preferred him over Justin. And with Justin, I saw the typical thing that I hate most when you're reading any kind of YA werewolf novel, is when they just look at each other and they're like, my mate, and it's just like this certain animalistic urge to like bite the other one's neck or something. Like, that's basically how their meeting went, and that's what made me not like it. So from the first moment they saw each other, I already did not like the romance in between them. I did not like that whole plot line that was going on. So I will say I am partial to Trick. And the ending is another thing that really made me mad, was how, okay, like, spoiler, Catelyn is a werewolf, okay, but she's some kind of different werewolf, because, you know, they always are the chosen one trope, you know? And so Oh my gosh. So like she's a werewolf, and then somehow Cordelia's family finds out about it, even though her dad was basically threatening to kill her if he found out that she was a werewolf, okay? And so the family finds out, and the dad gets mad at Cordelia and tells Cordelia, you have to go, you're out of the pack, like you're not my daughter anymore, essentially, you know? But for some reason keeps Catelyn in the pack. And Catelyn stays. And I understand, like, maybe if she would have went, they could have killed her, but most likely they would have just let her run off with Cordelia, who was her friend. And I thought it was kind of weird that Catelyn remained in the pack even when Cordelia didn't. And for Cordelia to get mad at her, like, I felt both sides, because it's kind of messed up, because Catelyn didn't ask for any of this to happen. She literally had no choice to go to Arkansas. You know, she had no way around it, and everything just kind of happened to her, and she wasn't really asking for any of it, you know, especially for all the crazy stuff with Cordelia's family. And Cordelia knows her family, she knows her father. She should know that it wasn't Catelyn's fault that things turned out the way they did, and that her father got mad and kicked her out. But she looked at Catelyn like it was Catelyn's fault, you know? But I guess who really wants to, like, blame their father for not loving them? I felt like the ending was rushed, because suddenly she was finding out she was a werewolf, even after they had just spent the whole, like, 250 pages as filler, basically, for the main event that was going to happen within the last, like, less than 100 or so pages. So I felt like it was a build-up and then a short climax, and then just downhill from there, because then she's with Justin, and then suddenly she's not hurt by Silver, and so she's not a typical werewolf, so that means everything has changed, you know? And I just didn't like how the author had done the ending. I think it could have been done better, but it's not my book, so I can't say anything. But this is my review for Unleashed by Nancy Holder and Debbie V. And I hope you guys liked it, and I will be back with more, especially whenever I read the second one. So if you guys are interested in that, then stick around, okay? Thank you.